All right, ready for another deep dive? Today we're exploring the work of Arifa Omarloor.
Oh, interesting.
She's an Afghan novelist, lives in Belgium now,
Okay.
but she actually worked with the BBC for over a decade, producing all sorts of educational content.
Wow, so she knows how to craft a story.
Exactly, and that definitely comes through in her novel, ستومانه تېښته.
Stomana teshta.
It means like exhausted escape, gives us a look into Afghanistan, but through the eyes of this woman named Badrai.
So we're talking love, relationships, escape, all against this backdrop of, well, Afghanistan's complexities. What?
You hit the nail on the head. And Omarloor, she really brings those complexities to life, just in how she describes the landscape.
How so?
She talks about these rugged mountains, the Deuce River, which seems to go on forever,
I'm picturing it.
and these dense forests, almost secretive. It's beautiful, but dangerous, especially for someone like Badrai on the run.
Right, so the landscape itself is almost like a character adding to those challenges.
I like how you put that. And then there's Badrai herself. Omarloor does a phenomenal job of making her feel real.
I was going to say, what stood out to you about Badrai?
You feel her fear, her exhaustion, always wondering where will we spend the night, worried about wild animals attacking.
Vulnerable, yeah.
Exactly. And the dialogue, even translated to English, it pulls you right into her headspace.
Any particular lines come to mind?
When she says to Yargal, her companion, "I don't believe you," you can feel this tension building, the distrust growing.
Makes you wonder about Yargal's motives, too. Are they really aligned with Badrai's? And is there like a power imbalance there?
Oh, for sure. And just when you think it can't get more complicated, a beautiful guest shows up.
Oh, this is where things get interesting.
Oh.
I bet that throws everything into turmoil.
Totally. Jealousy,
Yeah.
unease, just another layer on top of their already strained relationship.
It's fascinating how Omarloor combines these themes, love, relationships, but within the story about escape, survival.
Right. It highlights how those human connections, that need for love, for companionship, it doesn't go away, even in the worst situations.
For sure. But it's not all about romance, is it? Badrai's journey, it's marked by some pretty heavy losses, too.
That's true. Even before the escape, she's dealing with the loss of her husband.
Under really tragic circumstances, from what I understand.
Yeah, you can only imagine the trauma she's carrying. But then, amidst all of that, something incredible happens.
What's that?
She gives birth to her son, Dawood.
A little spark of hope in all that darkness.
Exactly. It speaks to that resilience, the human spirit, right?
Yeah.
That need to create, to nurture, even when surrounded by, well, despair.
And through Badrai, Omarloor starts to shed light on the wider struggles women face in Afghanistan.
Her individual journey becomes this lens through which we can understand those societal pressures, the expectations.
And she doesn't hold back. You get this picture of a society where women's choices are so limited, their voices silenced. It's a stark contrast to, well, the world many of us know.
And to emphasize that contrast even more, she introduces this group of foreigners.
Led by, wasn't it, Sheikh Abdul Rahman bin Saud?
That's him. Talk about a culture clash.
You've got this group representing, what, a more liberal worldview, maybe even materialistic, coming face to face with Afghan life?
Their interactions, their priorities, everything about them is just completely different from Badrai's experience.
It's like they're looking at Afghanistan through a totally different lens, focused on their own comfort, and kind of oblivious to the struggles around them.
Exactly. Like there's this moment where Bin Saud calls a small stream a river. Shows how detached he is, how little he understands about what Badrai faces every day.
And that clash of cultures, that sets the stage for some really interesting things to happen, I bet.
Oh, definitely. And speaking of interesting, we've got Ashraf.
Oh, right. He's initially, involved with the foreigners, almost complicit in their
Behavior, yeah. But then something changes. He starts to develop this, you wouldn't expect it, empathy for Badrai and her son.
Really? That's intriguing. What is it about Badrai that causes that shift in him?
Maybe her resilience, her strength, that unwavering determination to protect Dawood. There's something about her that challenges his worldview.
It seems like it. And that transformation in Ashraf, it makes you think about how our encounters with different cultures can shape us.
Can we truly overcome our biases? Embrace a more empathetic perspective? Big questions.
Definitely ones worth exploring.
And we'll do just that when we come back.
It's remarkable how, even through all of this Badrai, she never loses herself.
That's so true. Like even with all the hardships she faces, she never becomes a victim.
She never does. She's constantly challenging Ashraf, questioning him, refusing to be silenced.
Oh, remember that line? where she's like, I will not let you treat me like an animal.
Powerful. It really shows her resilience, her determination to be treated with dignity no matter what.
It makes you think about the Sheikh and his companions.
Yeah.
At first, they seem almost benevolent.
But then you see their true colors, right, as the story goes on.
Yeah, that fascination they have with Badrai. It turns predatory.
They see her as this exotic object, something to possess and control.
It's uncomfortable, for sure. Those power dynamics between these wealthy foreigners and, well, the people they encounter.
And that privilege blinds them to what Badrai is really going through.
They reduce her to a stereotype, taking away her individuality, her agency.
And the other men, Dietrich, Jamdart, they enable it all.
They go along with how the Sheik objectifies Badrai, even using, well, pretty awful language.
Racist, misogynistic, trying to justify their actions.
It's like this microcosm of a colonial mindset.
Where those in power exploit others for their own gain. Exactly.
And there's that disturbing scene where the Sheikh compares Badrai to a wild beast.
Ugh, trying to dehumanize her to justify what he's doing.
It's awful. But Omarloor, she never lets you forget Badrai's strength.
Absolutely. She never gives up, keeps fighting for her freedom, her dignity.
And she does escape, with a little help from an unexpected source.
Such a thrilling moment, that feeling of relief when she breaks free.
But it also makes you think, what does freedom even mean for Badrai in her situation, with all the societal constraints?
Right. Even though she's escaped those captors, she's still in a world that limits women.
Her journey isn't over, and Omarloor seems to be saying that true freedom is a constant struggle.
It is. And you wonder about the consequences of her choices. What's next for her? How will she rebuild her life?
And Dawood, her son, how will she protect him in such a volatile place?
So many questions Omarloor leaves you pondering them long after you finish the book.
ستومانه تېښته. It's more than an escape story, isn't it?
It's a reflection on identity, the strength of women, and how hard it is to navigate a world that can be hostile to your dreams.
It's interesting, right? With all the darkness, all the hardship, ستومانه تېښته still has these moments of beauty, even humor.
Oh, absolutely. Omarloor finds that balance, Doesn't shy away from the harsh stuff, but still shows the resilience, the humor, those little joys that pop up even in the darkest times.
Like when Badrai is trying to teach Ashraf some Pashto words.
And he's just butchering them.
I know. It's a small moment, but it says so much about their relationship.
How they connect, bridge that cultural gap through laughter, shared experiences.
And it shows how language can be both a barrier and a bridge, right?
For sure. And there's that irony, too. Ashraf, who saw Badrai as the foreigner, he's the one struggling to understand.
It flips the script, makes you question those assumptions about who's really the other.
Exactly. We all have something to learn from each other, no matter where we come from.
Another thing that struck me was motherhood. How fiercely Badrai protects Dawood. That's a driving force for her.
Primal instinct, right, to protect your child no matter what, and it adds to her relationship with Ashraf.
He starts to care for Dawood, too. Blurs the lines between captor and protector.
It does, and that complexity is what makes ستومانه تېښته so good.
It's not just good versus evil, it's human nature, culture clashes, the messy reality of survival.
For you, wanting to learn about Afghan culture, this novel gives you a really unique perspective.
A chance to step outside my comfort zone, see a world that we don't often get to see in Western literature.
To confront those assumptions we might have about Afghanistan, refugees, women, and other cultures.
And it reminds you that behind every headline, every statistic, there are real people, real stories.
Stories of resilience, courage, the human spirit. That's what ستومانه تېښته is all about.
It makes you think about empathy, understanding, finding hope in the toughest situations.
So much to take away from Badrai's story.
Until next time, keep diving deep.